Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from the healthyamerican.org, streaming here. It is Saturday, August 19th, 2023. I've been doing nonstop coverage for you of the Maui disaster. And during that time, I vowed to no longer run any sponsor messages on those videos because I wanted to get right into the heart of the matter and to have information that could be shared easily. I want to thank all of the new subscribers to this channel as well who have joined in over the last several days. I really appreciate you being on board. I do have a sponsored show. I am not paid through YouTube at all. I do not receive a penny from YouTube. They have deemed my content as they won't monetize it. They said that the advertisers don't want to run their ads on my channel. If you ever see an ad playing before my videos, I don't get a penny from it. YouTube takes that money. What I do have are sponsors who see value in me and my message, and they see value in you, and they want me to bring their message to you, which is what I'm going to do in just a moment. The messages I'm going to bring to you in particular, I hope, will be of value to you. These are products that I use and trust, and I hope that you will as well. I want to talk about how prepared are you really for a coming disaster. So many of you said, Peggy, I am so overwhelmed and heartbroken by the damage that I've seen, not just in Hawaii, but there are storms raging in Canada. Of course, Canada burned quite a bit over the last couple of months. Ongoing fires in California, flooding in Kentucky and other areas across the country, fires in the Canary Islands. It's just nonstop. And that can be overwhelming. And that's a part of that psychological terrorism. It's like a type of warfare that I believe that the New World Disorder is sloshing all over us so that we will feel unprepared and just like we give up and we don't know what to do. We spin out of control. So I want to help you stay down to earth by giving you some solutions. Now, we're going to dive into a very comprehensive checklist to be prepared. And I want to go through this with you. I thought it was very helpful. It was from the County of San Diego, of all places, and there are different categories. And I noticed that there were a couple of things that I had overlooked. So I want to make sure that you are as prepared as you can be. And I hope that you will never have to use these emergency supplies. All right. Before we do that, having said all that, let me bring you a message from the sponsor. And the first one, we're going to hop right on over to trimwithpeggy.com. And I've always joked that I carry around my own extra emergency calories right around my tummy. And if you're like me and you're interested in perhaps shedding a few pounds, then this would be something that you would like to try. And you go to trimwithpeggy.com. There are nearly, 73.6% of adults are overweight. And of that, 40% are obese. And you can not fall into one of those categories if you would like to take this amazing supplement and include it into your daily routine. It contains naturally sourced ingredients to support weight loss. The main ingredient is called conjugated linoleic acid, also known as CLA, and this has been shown to reduce the fat storage while speeding up the fat breakdown. So the CLA in this product essentially hinders the body's ability to store fat in favor of supporting the body's ability to burn fat. So you can try it today by going to trimwithpeggy.com. You will get up to 51% off on your order, depending on what you purchase. And you will also get several additional free bonuses. You go to trimwithpeggy.com, and I will also have a link for you in the description box below. All right, let's talk about preparing for a disaster. In California, we have earthquakes. We have natural fires. We have a lot of flooding, and we have our power outages, which I think is probably the most common thing that people will experience, is being without power for several days. And that's what I want to help you prepare for. In California, more and more insurance providers are no longer covering houses for fire insurance, for flood insurance, for earthquake insurance, and just for the contents of the house itself. And I have covered that many times on previous videos. And I believe that's because they want to drive these insurance companies out of business. So then the government will be the only provider, and you'll have to take what they offer and at a price that they require and at the low ball coverage that they will give you. Just as an aside, over in Maui, Josh Green New Deal, the one Burn Back Better, that guy, he said that those who want the assistance in having their properties assessed and remediated, he called that, it has to be done by FEMA and the National Guard. You cannot bring in your own people. If you do, you're not going to get the money. So you need to think about these things and about your insurance and so forth. So the good news is there are certain things that we can do to prepare. I would consider myself a moderate level prepper. I'm not entry level. I have been prepping for many years. I really sort of upped my game during the hogwash because I had a sense that they were going to continue to shut things down as they did. And then I love to study and improve my preparedness. There are great channels here on YouTube. Let me know in a comment if you follow anyone like the Alaska Prepper and others. Now, I actually, I will just say that I am a little cautious on some of the YouTubers because I don't want to do the doom and gloom and put you into a spin cycle and say, if you don't get this now, it's your last chance, you'll never get it. I don't operate that way. I want to be level-headed, sober-minded, down to earth, but I also want to encourage you to not put this off. This is something that you need to do. So let's do this. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go over to the, it's called Ready San Diego. I think it's a really well done website. And this is what I'm going to share with you. So let's hop on over. They are not a sponsor. I am not getting anything by telling you about their batteries and radios and all of this. But number one, you should have emergency supplies on hand. And it says your supplies should be sufficient to sustain you, your family, and your pets for a minimum of 72 hours. And again, I think this is because they may turn the power out. I thought it was interesting in the video that I just did. I had an email from my representative who said, well, the electricity company is not going to turn off any power in these high winds. I think that means that they are going to turn the power off in the high winds, which means we need to be prepared to live without power. And actually, before we continue, let me just tell you a story. Back in the hogwash days, we were doing our beach church and then we had lunch with our Healthy Americans afterwards. By the way, beach church is going to be September 10th. Pastor David will be there. I personally am not going to be there at this one, but lovely Healthy Americans join in, and there's always a nice gathering for support. You don't have to be religious to attend this event. There's normally somebody speaking about current events. My husband gives an encouraging, spiritual support. And then when I'm there, I give my Healthy American spin on what's going on. So at Beach Church back in 2020, we spent some time and we didn't get home until it was dark, and it had been really hot that day. It was exactly like this time of the year back in 2020. Maybe it was a couple of weeks later. Super hot that day. We come home, it's dark. And in our condominium complex, our block where our home was completely dark. Everybody else had electricity. Our block had no electricity. And we actually had animals inside that had been there for several hours. Luckily, the way that the condo was built and the air conditioning had shut itself off, but it was still cool enough. And we don't have carpet on the floor. So they were able to stay cool. I was outraged. I could not believe that my block of homes where I lived was off and everybody else's electricity was on. So that means that it was not a widespread outage. And I'm not pointing any fingers, but isn't it interesting that where I lived had no electricity? Now, here's the interesting part of the story as well. Because we're preppers and we actually have bins of our flashlights and our batteries and our food and gloves and all kinds of safety things that we're going to look at in just a moment. When we opened the front door, I didn't know where the flashlight was. So it's not enough to have the things. You have to do a rehearsal. You have to do a dry run, a drill. You have to imagine, have the electricity off. Where are the candles? Where are the matches? Where are the batteries? Do the flashlights work? How long have they been sitting there? Have you done a run through? Do you have canned foods, but you don't have a can opener? Do you have canned foods, but it turns out they're not the foods that you like? I've actually gone so far as to prepare meals with some of my prepping items, especially as they start to reach their expiration date, although canned foods can last a long time, I believe, after their expiration date. But I would do a dry run to see, like, what actually do I like to eat? Is there something that I missed? Do we have enough water? Are the batteries dry? Are they working? Does the flashlight work? So doing that dry run is very helpful. That was a really important wake-up call for me. As it turns out, we had the batteries in the garage, but in some smart Healthy American said, Peggy, you could have used your flashlight on your cell phone to go around. But in that moment of trauma, or it wasn't so much trauma as it was shock and outrage, I wasn't thinking clearly. So that's why having a list, having things written down, going through the drill can help you so much so that you're not caught off guard like I was. And I consider myself like a pretty well prepared. So there you have it. We were told that the electricity was going to be out, because I did go on my phone to the electric company, and it said that the electricity would be off for 3 days. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I've got to use my computer. We've got to have our refrigerator. And at that point, we didn't have a generator. So now we have a generator, which will keep the refrigerator running. It will keep the computers running. It will allow us, because then I can plug my cell phone into my computer to charge the cell phone. I also have a solar panel, but if there's no sun, for some of the items. And you can also get a battery pack that you can also run some of your things with. You can even run like a little mini fridge. And so it's not going to be noisy, and you don't need to have a gasoline powered generator. And in some places, I know the generators are outlawed, like California. I know they're going to be outlawing generators. They want everything to be electric. I believe that this is another part of their diabolical plot, is to get rid of propane, natural gas, have everybody on electricity, because you can't really store electricity other than in batteries. And that is not always easy to have. And when those run out, it's a whole nother thing. So in terms of being prepared, do your dry run throughs, figure out what it is that you want to have on hand, what you want and what you need. Always keep in mind your animals as well. And you want to have food for them. You want to have their crates. There was a great tip from a Healthy American who said, Peggy, if you can't find your crate, smaller animals can always go into a backpack. I thought that was excellent. And I've got my 90-pound teddy bear, who I don't think would go in the backpack, but I don't have to put her in a crate. She's fine. But the kitty cat, of course, I would want to have in a safe place like that. So let's do this. I'm going to share my screen. We will go back over and I'll show you these checklists, and I'll leave a link for you. And then I want to hear from you. What are your must-haves in terms of prepping? And let me know if you are an intermediary prepper, a newbie, if you're an expert, and any books or any other websites that you can recommend as well. I think this one is really great. So you can download a printable emergency supplies list. And that's what I clicked on. Let's see. Yeah, download the list. And so I think this is really great. Let's just look at this here. So you've got your prescription medications. I don't have any prescription medications. I do not participate in the mainstream medical merry-go-round, but that's just me. Glasses, yes, I want to have, and also my eye drops. Okay, if you have children, you definitely will want to prepare for them. Pet food, water, and supplies. Water is very, very important. We have little packets of water that you can buy in a box. And we went to the Army supply store. I think that is the best place to purchase your emergency supplies. They have all sorts of things that I didn't even think I needed or wanted. I mean, crazy clothing and things that you can wear and reflective stuff. And it's almost like military because it is the Army surplus. So that's what I recommend. We got boxes of these packets of water, which means you can put a couple into your pack. You can throw them away when you're done. You don't need to have a container to drink out of. And it tells you how many of those you need to drink every day for your health in order to stay before you get dehydrated. So that I really love as one of my kind of secret prepper items is the packets of water. You might be able to find them online as well, but of course I do recommend that you shop local if possible. So check out to see where an Army surplus store is near you. They're fantastic. Okay. You want to keep your important family documents and, insurance policies, identification, bank account records in a portable waterproof container. At the very least, you'd want to have some, like I use a Ziploc bag inside of a Ziploc bag so that at least it can stay waterproof. Cash and change, if the electric grid goes down, none of your cards are going to work at any gas station or grocery store or whatever. This I think is really, really important. Have a book, because if the internet goes down and your phone is dead, you need to have an actual book for first aid and other kind of emergency reference. I know some people that have gone through kind of medical first aid training. I took a class where we learned certain things that I hope I never will have to do, like doing a tourniquet and other things, and, you know, helping people if they passed out. It was definitely an emergency type of course, and it helped me feel more empowered. And always having something, a book that you can reference, and you can learn that by reading. All right. A sleeping bag or warm blanket for each person. Even in Southern California, always, I've got a blanket, I've got towels in the car, I've got a beanie for my head, I've got a hoodie, warm jacket, I've got a waterproof jacket, I've got a poncho, I've got an umbrella, I've got gloves, heavy gloves in case you come across something and you need to, you know, pick up a piece of wood or drag something out of the road. You don't want to do that with your bare hands. So have some kind of utility gloves that you can use. You also want to have a utility knife that you could cut something, or however else you need to use it. And then I also bring giant, those big black hefty bags. You could use that as a rain poncho. You could put your extra clothes in it and make a pillow for your head. You could even use it as a sling to pick somebody up and carry them somewhere if you needed to. Maybe that's a little far-fetched, but there are so many uses for these giant plastic trash bags to keep your things dry. So I have those in the car as well. I have a lot of stuff in the car. I've got my supplies in the car. I've got my supplies at home. I've got my supplies at a relative's home in case I need to go there. I don't have to worry about bringing everything because I know my stuff will be there. Okay. Complete change of clothing, including a long sleeved shirt, long pants, sturdy shoes. Also socks. There's nothing worse than having wet, soggy socks that actually could be a health hazard. So I've got several changes of socks in my backpack. By several, I mean like 3 changes of socks in my backpack. And then because I basically live in summertime clothing with sandals and all of that, I've got my sturdy athletic shoes that I can use that have a little bit of waterproofing outside. And I also have a pair of boots that I could use to walk through water. Again, you don't want to be cold. You want to try to think about staying dry. Fire extinguisher, extremely important. Matches in a waterproof container. Check your matches if you have these. And that is important. There was a really cool prepper thing. So if you had, let's see. So I have like a little lip balm here. If you had a little toothpick, you can put a toothpick in the center of your lip balm, light that on fire, and now you have a little tiny candle. Isn't that so cool? So I love all of these really handy ideas. Again, the internet is full of them. Those are just a couple of my favorites. All right. I really like this one here, the paper and pencil. And what I do is I don't have a pencil, but I have an indelible marker. And I've got paper in case I need to leave a message that I can, and I've got that, the duct tape that I can duct tape a message to the board, to the door or something like that. And also a little notebook in case you need to write things down. Another thing that you want to have, let me just come off that for a second. I will leave a link for you. Another thing that I think is very, very important is you want to have contact information for people that is not on your cell phone in case your cell phone goes down. A Healthy American said, Peggy, I memorize the important phone numbers. It's good for my memory, and that way I have them. I think that's a good first step, but you might be so much in shock that you don't remember the phone numbers. You might be passed out and somebody else is trying to call a loved one. So if you have your phone numbers written down on a piece of paper or in a little notebook is even better. And you could even say who they are, like sister, phone number, spouse, son, neighbor, and you have all of that written down, then your loved ones could be notified if something happens and that information is found. So that I think is very important as well. It also said to have some games and puzzles. For me, that would be something if you are at home, the electricity is out, you're getting bored. And especially if you have kids, you want to keep them occupied and your own self. So having the reading material, maybe some cards, if you play cards, or something to keep your wits at bay so that you're not going to spin into fear and, kind of get into the spin cycle. So as much as you can to kind of keep things going is great. All right, let's just do one more here. I think this is really helpful information. Of course, this is over here. We went to FEMA, which is pretty funny. And, but it's a good checklist: water and non-perishable food for several days, extra cell phone battery or charger, battery powered or hand crank radio. This is super important. That can receive the weather radio tone alerts, and extra batteries. Now, you may want to add in there are some people that do their shortwave radio and the ham operators. I'm not in the ham operator community, but I think that would be a great way to up your game in terms of being prepared, and you can get a lot of information, and that is really going to make you feel empowered. Okay, the first aid kit is very important. Flashlight, extra batteries, we talked about. Whistle, I think that is really important to have as well. Of course, the dust mask that they want you to help filter contaminated air, plastic sheeting and duct tape to shelter in place. The moist towelettes, I really like those little like kind of handy wipes, I call them, that come in the little packets. I always keep them in my car also. The garbage bags, and let's see, non-sparking wrench or pliers to turn off utilities, can opener, local maps. That is another thing that we do, is we have the Thomas Guide, and we also, and let me talk to you face to face. We also know all of our escape routes. So where we live, we know all of the ways in, all of the ways out. We've driven these roads. We know the smaller roads. We know what goes north and south and east and west. And I think that's very important also, so that you're not stuck on a main road if you are going to evacuate. Let me just talk about that for a moment, because some people have said, Peggy, is it against the law if you refuse to evacuate? It's actually not against the law. What will happen is that the first responders, my understanding is that they will leave you, and you really should not call them again for help after you have refused it. So if you decide that you are going to stay and protect your property and your family, and you're not leaving, then that's on you. And you do have that choice, and you do have that right. I don't know that I've ever seen anyone dragged against their will away from an area. I don't know that anybody has been arrested or served an order. I don't think it could happen that quickly in times of a disaster. And I know many people that have stayed to defend their houses in fires, especially here in California, Southern California in particular. I don't know about the floods. That it seems like people might leave that more readily. So that's my opinion on that. You want to verify what I've told you. When it comes, if there is no evacuation order, and let's say that all the electricity goes out for 3 days and people are panicking and you're seeing all your neighbors leave town and all of that, one of my expert preppers told me that his recommendation is that you stay in your house and you wait for the dust to clear, so to speak. You don't try to go out. And I'm not talking about right before the disaster hits, and then you could actually evacuate from a hurricane, for example. But let's say that the power goes out and people are freaking out and they suddenly want to get in the car and drive to another city, and you're seeing all the panic and like the people going for the toilet paper. He said, don't be a part of that. Stay home. If you have your supplies and you're well settled, that's the safest place for you to be. Defend your own house. And later, after the roads are clear and you have a solid destination where you can go, then consider leaving. But leaving is not necessarily the best idea. And I'm not talking about fires and hurricanes, because people, at least in the hurricanes, do get some warning. I'm just talking about like the electric grid goes down or something like that, or the aftermath of an incident where people are really panicking and you don't want to be in that panic. So what I'll do, friends, is I'll wrap up here, and I'm going to share my screen one more time and show you this readysandiego.org. I will leave a link for you in the description box below. And you can click through and get more detailed lists for each of these categories. One thing that my husband and I do have in the sanitation supplies is we have like a camp latrine. All right. So for human waste, and you can even make your own with a bucket and some kitty litter underneath it. So there are things that you can do if you want to learn more about that, because you need to think about, if there's no water, how you are going to get rid of your, the human waste and so forth. So that is one thing that we got at that Army Navy surplus. And I think you can find that online. So I would add that to your list of things to be prepared for. And of course, toilet paper, we know, ran out in the first hog washing that we had. So anything that you want in terms of your toothbrush, your toothpaste, and so forth. Cooking supplies, they have a list for you, the safety supplies, the pet supplies, and then what to have in your car. I think this is just a fantastic list. It even is a checklist where you can take your pen and mark it off. I always find that very satisfying. That is going to give you peace of mind. And I hope that you never are going to have to use it. I'm so grateful to have you on board. I'm normally not broadcasting at this day of the week, but I am looking here. Oh, are the comments going today, friends? YouTube has been doing some strange things and shutting off my comments. Oh, here we are. All right. Thank you so much, Valerie, being on board, holding down the fort. There's Rhonda. I really appreciate it. I've been keeping you on your toes with extra broadcasts. And friends, Valerie and Rhonda do this to support me. They are volunteers. They are my trusted healthy Americans. And I can see the little hearts and love of appreciation going out for them. I just wanted them to know again how much I appreciate all that they do. And you can check out their links that they share, and they are right up to par on all of the information that I give. So they can direct you to some of my videos if you have questions. I've got my lovely assistant, Olivia, who you can reach, support@thehealthyamerican.org. I know many of you are emailing her with information as well. And that's basically it. We are a very small crew here, and I could not do it without your prayers, without your kind words of support and encouragement. I read your comments, as many as I can. I basically read all the comments I can in the first 24 hours. And then as the videos stay after several days and people are seeing them, it's thousands of comments I can't keep up with all the time, but please know that I do my best and I appreciate you. Friends, I hope you understand. The fact that you get it is really, really important. People have said, Peggy, I don't even know why you're talking about these fires. Why are you even talking about the New World Disorder? What can we do to stop it? Well, number one, we can realize that they're not pulling the wool over our eyes. That makes me feel better. I don't want to be a victim. I don't want to be gullible, and I don't want to be naive. Some people actually have told me they prefer to keep their head in the sand. They said, I don't want to know about it because it, how does the expression go? It harshes my mellow. It intrudes in my peace of mind. And I would never encourage anyone to be obsessed about current events, but I do believe that being informed is important. How do you know whether you're informed or obsessed? Well, you're obsessed if it takes every waking moment. And if you don't take time to spend with your friends and family members and loved ones, if you're not taking time to exercise and enjoy a healthy meal and maybe go for a walk and spend time in nature and read a book and enjoy a bath and get to bed on time. I'm a little guilty of not getting to bed on time this last week. I feel a little drained from the coverage, but because there was so much coming so quickly, I wanted to make sure that I was helping in getting the information out that people needed. So when you're obsessed, you are ignoring all of those other things in your life. You're ignoring your loved ones, your responsibilities. And that's exactly what the tyrants want. They want you to go into the spin cycle. They want to steal your soul. So balance it out. If you're spending 2-3 hours a day staying up on the news, spend 2-3 hours a day doing something completely away from it all. That's what I highly recommend. And that is how we can get through this. And the other thing is the fact that we have our Healthy American community to support each other, to direct each other to resources and answers, and just to say, hey, you're not crazy. I see things the same way that you did. So many of you have told me that that is basically worth the price of admission, that you like to come on these shows because you want to see if others are seeing what you're seeing, because sometimes your family members, your friends, they think that you're crazy, or they may go along with you so far. And then after a little bit, they're like, oh no, I can't, you're going off the, radar here, or you're, however the expression goes, you've really gone too far. And I want you to know that you haven't gone too far. It is so important to ask these questions. I want to broaden my perspective. I don't have all the answers, but I have the questions. And a lot of people aren't asking the questions. And that's what we need to do, especially in terms of what just happened on Maui. I did my newsletter. Let me just show that to you once more before we sign off. And I want everybody to get on the newsletter. It's absolutely free. So let me click on over here and I'll show you some of the questions that I'm asking. So here it is, thehealthyamerican.org. This is the actual homepage, looks like this. You can click on newsletter. And when you go there, you can subscribe, check your spam. You know what? Even the newsletter is unsubscribing people. I don't know why, but I'm kind of shadow banned there. Here's all the past newsletters. So if you don't want to subscribe, just go to the website. I do, oh my gosh, maybe 3 or 4 newsletters a week because I want to keep you up to date. And they're relatively short. Here's what I sent out today. And I talked about the hurricane in California, poking a little bit of fun because it won't be a hurricane. It will be a tropical storm. And I pray that no one is going to have any damage and certainly no loss of life. But here are the questions that I'm asking. For example, I'm asking about the fire. How many firefighters were dispatched to Lahaina? At what time? How many engine trucks were on the scene? Where were they? How many hoses? And what I mean is, where were they is number one, where there was no images, and also where, at what streets, at what location. How many hoses were turned on and used? How many structures did they put water on? How long did the firefighters stay on the scene? When were they told to stand down? Who was the incident commander? I don't know if it was the fire chief. Maybe there was a fire captain. Maybe there was a volunteer. I want the answers. Who filed the incident report? And I would like a copy of that incident report. I would like to read it. It should be public knowledge. Who in the fire department is conducting the investigation of this fire? And why is the police chief, that's what I call him, Pelletier, handling the scene instead of the fire department? It should be a fire investigation. What is it? A crime scene? What is this guy? Steve McGarrett? If you don't know Steve McGarrett, watch the old reruns of Hawaii Five-0. Regardless of how the fire started, and you've seen my more than a dozen investigative reports on this unspeakable tragedy, you know my suspicions. These questions need to be answered. So you can get on my free newsletter, friends. Please go to thehealthyamerican.org and then also go here, which is my Substack. So it's peggyhall.substack.com. Super easy. And you'll see I do probably 2 Substacks a week, and they're quite a bit more detailed. So here you can see I've got links, I've got my videos, I've got a little bit more, because some of you like to read and do more of the deep dives. Here's my videos that I did recently that are linked up, and then you can leave comments as well. So this is, very interesting to see what the people are saying. The last thing I want to show you here that could be of value to you is preparewithpeggy.com. Speaking about prepping, this is an old photo. I know I need to update that one, or let me know if you think I should leave it. This is about, at least 5 years ago, if not longer. But more importantly, the website is up to date, preparewithpeggy.com. So this is one of the sponsors. And everybody in my family has one of these buckets, and it will last me for a month. One of those buckets gives you enough food for 4 weeks, which means if the time is running out and the grocery stores are closed and you didn't prep enough, this is grab and go. You're just going to take that bucket. And the good news is it's made of plastic. Do you know what that means? It won't burn in a dew fire. That means anybody on Maui that had one of these buckets, it is unmelted because microwave energy does not melt plastic. So I think they ought to put that on their website. I'm totally going off script here for promoting this product. But what I want you to do is go to preparewithpeggy.com, see all of the offers that they have there for you. This is not food that I would eat on a normal basis. I don't normally eat macaroni and cheese and, that kind of stuff. But if I'm starving and if it's the difference between me making it another few weeks before I can get the kind of food that I prefer, I'm all about it. It's convenient and it's peace of mind. I call it my food insurance, which means I hope I will never have to use it. It lasts for 25 years. You don't have to worry about anything expiring. If this is something that's not in your budget, just do your own prepping. And what I do is I will buy a little bit extra every time I go grocery shopping. So it's not going to break the piggy bank. So you go grocery shopping, you buy a couple extra cans of beans. All right. They're $1 a can. At least they used to be. And then next time you get a couple little packets of tuna. And then the next time you get another jar of peanut butter. And I have the dehydrated peanut butter that you can mix with water so that it won't go bad. So every time you just pick up a couple extra items, maybe set aside 10 or 20 bucks if your budget allows. And then over time, you are filling up your pantry with the foods that you like, that you can prepare. And that is another option. My goal for you is to help you live in liberty and to keep your wits about you so that you don't get into the spin cycle, which is exactly what those tyrants want. I can't wait to read your comments, everybody. Thank you for being on board. I really appreciate you. I will be back with more fire coverage. Not sure if I'll do anything tomorrow. I might take my own advice and take a day of rest, but I definitely will be doing at least 2 videos a day as this breaking news continues. There's so much that I want to share with you so that you can expose these evildoers and share the videos, because evil thrives in the darkness. All right. I will also tell you that Green New Deal guy, right? The governor of Green New Deal, after I exposed his video on the very first day when he said, we will build back better. I think he meant to say we will burn back better. After he said that and I pointed it out, he has never said that again. So I don't know if somebody in his administration is watching my videos. They are maligning those of us on social media in a press concert, as I call it. They said, don't listen to anybody on social media. They're just trying to influence you. Oh, you're not trying to influence. Yeah, I am trying to influence people toward the truth. So we are getting through to them. He also said that the state wanted to buy up the land in Lahaina, and then he had to backpedal on that because social media blew up with it. And he said, oh, no, I didn't really mean that. So we have to keep on these tyrants. It is working. And they work in incrementalism, meaning they've got plans for decades. Their evil, diabolical, one world government might be even after our lifetime, but they don't care because they are playing their role literally, and we have to play our role. So even if our actions seem small and incremental, it's exactly how we need to do it. We can't let up. So you're in the right place. You're not going crazy. I'm seeing what you're seeing, and I'm so grateful to have you on board. All right, friends, I was grateful to bring you this information about prepping. I can't wait to read your tips, and you can also email support@thehealthyamerican.org. And I look forward to seeing you in an upcoming broadcast. Please review all of the videos on my Maui playlist in the meantime so that you can be up to date on everything that I've shared so far. See you soon, everybody.